Hi everyone, welcome to This Old TJ. Today's video, I am going out showing you what life is like with 32-inch tires and 488 gears. And surprisingly, it's better than I'd expected. So at the moment, I'm just cruising through my neighborhood, and there'll be a before video I will link up above here if you wanted to go watch what it was like before and see that before you see this. But the overall characteristics of the Jeep have definitely changed for the better. Before, with the 373s through here, would probably still be in the higher gear, or it would already be downshifted, and we'd be bouncing around. But through city streets, like right now I'm doing just a hair over 20 miles an hour, and I'm probably in third gear is my guess. But you'll see it hasn't shifted, it just stays right where it's at. We are coming up on our first turn now to one of the through roads. It goes kind of into town here, takes us to the main road where we'll get on to hit the highway. So we're gonna pull out here and speed up a bit. I'm gonna do the same thing in the last video, so I'm gonna try and get up to the speed limit here, which is 35 quickly. Definitely accelerates from a dead stop a lot better than it did before. I mean, that's definitely noticeable. And so now we're gonna idle down here. We're coming through a little 25 mile an hour zone. But one of the biggest things I've noticed so far is how much less it actually shifts. So we're coming up here to a little 15 mile an hour zone, and it'll probably downshift here in a moment just because we are slowing down a lot. So now as we come around this little bend and start to speed back up to 25, see the tach jump up a bit there, gets us right back up to speed. I mean, almost instantly, no struggle. No, it didn't really have to downshift from where it was at when I did so. Just kind of cruising along here. This is just a flat section of town I'm idling through at the moment. I'm not sure how it'll appear on the video, but doing right at 25 miles an hour. That's what GPS is showing me at the moment. And so the speedometer should be about dead on as well. So no, after the video I did where we corrected the speedometer gears after putting in the 488s, I went through this. I'll link that up above. It made a definite difference and got the speedometer back to near dead-on accuracy. So we are about to come to the end of our little flat driving 25 mile an hour in town section of the video here. And I'm getting ready to turn out onto the main road through town, and the next turn will be our entrance to the highway. And this is where you can really start seeing the comparison. If you watch that last video that I linked earlier with the 373s, I mean, this is where the difference really starts getting noticeable very quickly. So here we go. We're entering the highway. And in just a moment, we'll be out of the 25 mile an hour zone, and we'll be accelerating up to 60. So here it comes. 25 is coming to an end, and I'm just gonna kind of ease into it. And you'll see it didn't downshift instantly, multiple gears, it's staying right where it was. We are getting ready to hit 60. I'm going to turn on cruise control, and there we have it right there. We are now set cruise control at 60 miles an hour. Didn't really do a bunch of shifting down and then up, and then into overdrive with the torque converter lockup. So now we are cruising along about 2200 RPM, right at 60 miles an hour. So this section of highway is fairly flat. I think the last video I ended up having to go around somebody here that was doing like 50. After I get around this next corner and see what's ahead, I'll give you an idea of what that would look like with the 488s, just for a true comparison. And it's still going to be fairly level ground, maybe slight downhill. But here we go. Here's what accelerating around somebody would look like. So I'm going to give it about 2/3 throttle and speed up. We'll get a downshift. Right? You'll see it come up pretty fast. So there's 70. I'm just going to back off, let it go back to the cruise. But again, it can speed up now, right? Without having to downshift 2 gears, which is awesome. I was out here with all the hills. It probably spent more time shifting gears than it did staying in a gear on the 373s with the 32s. So now we're starting our first little hill climb. This one's pretty gradual, but I think last video it definitely downshifted here, and then we hit a point where it upshifted, and then it started losing speed because it didn't have enough torque to hold the speed. Then it downshifted again, and then somewhere around here it leveled off. But we are now cresting the hill and starting the slight downhill run. Still got the cruise set right at 60, and it just drives. It's nice. I mean, this is the way I think the TJ should have come from the factory, 32s and 488s. But one of the reasons I'm out filming this video today is because this week I am planning to put those Spider Tracks wheel adapters on, and then bolt on the JK wheels I picked up that have the 33s on them. They're metric 33s. They're, I think, 285 70 17s. So those are going to go on. So that's another, inch overall. Have to throw the speedometer correction gear in, which I already have. Go through the whole drill again, and then we'll try this video one more time and see if that, if all this drivability stays the same with the 33s and 488s. So starting to come up on the 55 mile an hour zone, so I am going to hit the coast button on the cruise here, get us down to 55. Alright, we are locked in now at 55. So, and this little section of road is fairly flat, but what's going to happen here is we're going to come around a corner, and then there's a hill starts going up. In the last video, I think I downshifted and upshifted twice on this coming little section of road. And it was the same kind of thing. I was doing 55 through here, start the hill climb, starts lugging the engine a little, downshifts, right? Climbs back up to speed eventually, upshifts, starts losing speed again, downshifts, picks up a little speed, upshifts, and I think after that in the last video I actually ran into some fairly heavy traffic and had to slow down anyway. But this time around, it's like 6:45 in the morning and a weekend, so we shouldn't run into that heavy traffic. But you can see so far here, the speed is holding steady, hasn't dropped off. I think my first downshift last video would have been right around in here. And then for the next few seconds here, it would have spent, gaining some speed back. And it probably would have been at around 3,000 RPM. Maybe around here, it would have went ahead and upshifted, tried to hold the speed, and the speed would already be starting to steadily drop off. And then somewhere around in here, it would have downshifted again. You'd see the RPMs climb, probably like 3,000 RPM or so. We'd probably hold that to right around in here, and then it would upshift again. And that's just the way it was constantly. Any little hill out here, if you were using cruise control for certain, it was just constant shifting up and down and up and down. If I held the throttle with slightly more throttle, then I could keep it from the constant shifting, but that was just unpleasurable. So you can see we did that entire hill, no downshifts whatsoever. So now we've hit the point where we're going to turn around. And I don't know about you, but to me, this was well worth it. Even if I were just going to stay on the 32s, the 488s were a vast improvement. And I know I had a YJ for a while that when I picked it up had 40s on it, and they were pretty well worn out and dry rotted, so I had to swap them out in a hurry. And they were bias ply, and the best I could get around here was 37-inch radials. So I put a set of those on it, and it had a worn out 4-cylinder in it with the 5-speed, and it had 538 gears. Even with that worn out 4-cylinder with 538s, I could still get it on the highway and somewhat maintain my speed unless I got into some steep mountain roads. So back on the on-ramp here, so I'm going to give it a little acceleration to get up to highway speed, which is 55. So I'm down at 20, and now I'm just going to get into it, and you'll see it's coming up to speed quickly, and there's 55. So I'll hit resume on the cruise control, and it definitely gets moving a lot faster when you need it to get moving, especially from a dead stop or a slow roll. Which makes merging onto the highways out here a lot more pleasant when you can get up and match speed instead of hoping and praying that the person flying up on you is actually going to slow down a little or change lanes. Or, you know, if you have to like suddenly slow down, that the person behind you is not looking to see if they're clear to merge and going to plow into you. It's just a lot more pleasant drive. Run a little downhill stretch of road at the moment. Nothing special. Holds the speed, holds the gear range just fine. And here in a couple moments, we're going to hit the next little level area. We'll stay 55. Then same thing I did last time. I'm just going to use accelerate on the cruise control to speed us up to the 60 mile an hour, and then we'll hit the last little hill climb we'll have, which is a steady grade for probably nearly a mile, just uphill the entire way. And before it would have been, I think, a few upshifts, a few downshifts. Can't remember for certain, but that's why that other video is there. You know, you can kind of compare. You can go back, fire them both up at the same time, one over the other, side by side, and kind of play through and see. All right, around the next little corner here, I should have the 60 mile an hour sign in sight. And once I see it, I'm going to start on the accelerate button, and there it is. I can see the sign, and there we are, locked in at 60. That's on GPS on my phone. So my phone is, I've got that little speedometer app open. Since I've got the camera here, it's kind of hard to see the gauges. So we are set dead on at 61. We're still a little bit levelish, maybe starting to maybe start a slight uphill. You can see the tach just stays there, rock steady, 2100 RPM, 60 miles an hour with 488s. Now we're definitely into the hill climb section, and still just holding steady. No change. It's holding the speed, holding it right at 60. In fact, I'm seeing a bump between 60 and 62 here. I think it knows it's under a little load, so it's giving it a little more. Now we're back down 61, 60, and just holding it steady. So if you've ever wondered, you know, can you run 488s with 32s? I would say absolutely do not hesitate. Even if you're going to stay on the 32s, it makes it pleasant. The only time it might be unpleasant is if you're going to go on some super long interstate highway drives, like in the northern plain states where you're actually going to encounter 80 mile per hour speed limits. where the flow of traffic will run between 90 and 100, that's where you're going to start to notice that they're not overly like high-speed highway friendly, but then again, is a TJ itself really high-speed highway friendly? I know it's definitely not if there's any curves involved, maybe going straight, but wouldn't want to, you know, have bad suspension and experience the death wobble or anything at that kind of pace. Then the one last little thing I've noticed here with the 488s and the 32s is my mileage has not changed really at all, and if anything, it is now slightly better. And I will say the majority of that is due to the lack of the constant downshifting anytime I go anywhere where there are hills. So it spends more time right there planted at 2100 RPM than it does up over 3 and then down to 25 and then back over 3 and then down to 25. I mean, now it just stays at 2100. I think before I said I could typically get 190 to 210 miles range before I started getting really nervous about it. I can honestly say now that I can consistently get 200 miles on a tank before I start getting nervous and before the fuel light even comes on the majority of the time. When I start getting nervous now, I usually have 210 miles on the tank, which doesn't sound like a lot, but when you're doing a lot of like small town to small town driving and in-city driving and everything, it's a noticeable difference. And again, I do have something that's going to extend that range coming up in a future video, so watch out for that one in the future. But my actual hand-calculated miles per gallon now, before it would run 10 and a half the majority of the time. I mean, a really good tank was 11. One of the best tanks I ever got, I think, was right before I filmed the last video like this. I'd really babied it to see how well I could do. And I think I managed to eke out 11 and a half miles per gallon on that tank. And I honestly can't remember if I've ever seen the upper side of 12, ever. But at the moment now, it's pretty consistently around closer to 11 than it was 10 and a half. And that's like every fill up. So, I mean, yeah, it's not a massive improvement, but for the drivability improvement without sacrificing mileage or without it getting worse, I think that's a definite win. So, you know, if you're thinking about pulling the plug on the 488s, I'd definitely go for it. It's going to make driving a lot more enjoyable, you know, unless you live in like Kansas and you're on flatlands all the time. You could probably get by with some of those factory 308s there. But anyway, that's all for now. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for watching if you stayed here to the very end. If you have, if you're not subscribed, reach down there, hit that subscribe button. Give the video a thumbs up. Stay tuned for more. I'm going to try and keep them coming. It's been a little bit of a break since the last one, but that's mainly due to the insanely cold weather and snow and everything we've had here, and then life got a little busy, but that's starting to calm down now, so I'll resume picking up the pace and there'll be more to come. Thanks again. See you later.